I am Dennis L. Waters, Dr. Dennis L. Waters, and just posting something on this Monday, December the 2nd, 2019. Amazing that we're in the year 2018. It is coming to an end, the last month in the year. 2020 will be here soon. That's a good thing. I am spending some time. I've spent the last few minutes, perhaps 30 minutes, looking for a article that concerns a veteran who was telling a story about self-awareness. He is a veteran. I had read the article some time ago. It dealt with the aspect of self-awareness concerning this veteran, and he used the metaphor of a tunnel, transitioning out of the military. And for that particular veteran, it was like a journey through a tunnel, walking into a tunnel, then having to go through a dark tunnel, and then hoping, if you will, that he would be able to get to the other side of the tunnel. And it is the experience of many veterans. I am in the midst of researching the experience of veterans. I'm a veteran myself, and when I mention to individuals the book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People that was put out, published by Stephen Covey, Dr. Stephen Covey, there is a part of that book where it talks about your circle of concern and your circle of influence, the circle of influence and your circle of concern. And the distinction about that is that the circle of influence are the places in your life where you can do something about, the places in your life, the things in your life that you can do something about. The circle of concern are things that you may be concerned about, but you really do not have any direct influence over those items in that area. And he discusses this in regard to the circle of concern is most times much larger, especially initially. The circle of concern is most of the time larger than the circle of influence. The circle of influence, where you can make a direct influence on something or somebody or some experience or some event, that circle could be very small. There was a time in my life where I felt, and there are times that I still feel, that the circle of influence was small. I said at one point that I could just barely shave my face. I had grown a beard at that time. But truthfully, when I shaved my face, there were individuals who had something to say about whether or not I should have shaved my own face, and let me know that they had something to say about my having had a beard one day and then I shaved my face and did not have a beard the next day. And so that circle of concern idea is a very interesting idea when it comes to this. And so he talks about this idea of the circle of concern and the circle of influence. But his major discussion about this is that an individual should work primarily on their circle of influence, no matter how small it is, no matter how large it is. Work on your circle of influence first, and then it will grow. because you can make some decisions about those things that you are having an influence on. You can make a direct connection between what you do and what happens in regard to this circle of influence. In that same chapter, and this is where we want to go here in regard to this journey of self-awareness, it is in that same chapter that Dr. Stephen Covey talks about this aspect that all things are created twice. Now, the biblical idea is, as a man thinketh, that's the person that he really is. As a person thinks, that's who that person really is. Or you sow and you reap. Same idea. You sow and you reap. The way that Stephen Covey talks about it, Dr. Stephen Covey, no disrespect intended for Dr. Stephen Covey, especially in light of what he did after he wrote this book, the business that he enacted and brought forth as a result of writing this book, and the many lives that he touched as a result of this book. My life certainly impacted. But this aspect of that you sow and you reap. And many people had in mind, of course, that when you're talking about sowing and reaping, the conversation is about whether or not you're talking about like a farmer who is sowing in the ground and then reaping a harvest, like you sow corn and you reap a harvest of corn, that kind of thing. And yes, that is true, but anyone who studies sacred text knows that there is another realm that is being spoken about as well, that the natural realm also is speaking about this mental realm or this spiritual realm of this metaphysical realm, whichever name you want to use, this psychological realm is being talked about. And that's what we're talking about here when it comes to this aspect of self-awareness. And here he says, all things are created twice. All things are created twice. And he mentions the idea of begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. There is a writer and a motivational speaker of times past, a great motivational speaker named Jim Rohn, R-O-H-N. And he has this statement that says, when should you start building something? When should you start building it? And he said, when it's finished, that's when you should start building. Now get this idea. When should you start building something? And he said, when it's finished. Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. All things are created twice. All things are created twice. And what they are both speaking about is that there is a mental creation first. There's a mental creation first. And it's vital that one becomes clear on that mental creation. What does this have to do with self-awareness? Who is the person that you want to be? Who is the person that you desire to be? Who is the person that you intend to be? Who is the person that you will be? That you're committed to be? I have this thing that I talk about, the 4 Ds. The first D is desire. Second D is definite. The third D is divinely intended. And the fourth D is destiny, or fourth dimensional. 4 Ds. These 4 Ds also go with what we call the restoration matrix, which speaks about specific areas of your life. So it has to do with things such as your mental life, your spiritual life, your physical life, your relational life, your financial life. And it's actually talking about looking forward in your life, determining where you want to be, say, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, and how you want to leave a legacy. All things are created twice, because the understanding is that you reap what you sow. And Jim Rohn said, when do you start building? When it's finished. When it's finished, the architect is going to begin the building or get people to build when it is finished, when the design is clear about what we're going to be doing moving forward. What is it exactly? What type of building will it be? What is its purpose? Who will inhabit that building? All of those things become vital. And it is the same when you're building a person, a character, if you will, or character, if you say that like that. And this is what Dr. Stephen Covey was speaking about. This is what he's speaking about. There are universal, permanent principles, laws, ideas, and ideals that you can never get away from. Or if you do get away from them and break them, then they will cause you to experience harm to yourself. Again, reap what you sow. And so you want to be able, if you will be self-aware and understand who you are, your mental, your emotional life, your not just your physical life, but your mental, emotional, your spiritual life, because the physical life and the life of your affairs are a result of your mental, emotional, and your spiritual life. That is the area that one plants in first before you reap the harvest of the physical life. As a man thinketh, as a woman thinks, so is he, so is she. All things are created twice. And this is so important because one of the things that you can do is that in this day and time, there's so much information, whether you call it genealogical information, where you look at what has happened to your ancestors, your parents, your grandparents, and great-grandparents, and all of the things that are available in regard to that line of reasoning. You can look at your surroundings and all of the things that are involved in that line of reasoning. You can look at so much as far as life is concerned, what has gone on in your own life. And then some way, somehow, one must determine what has the greatest influence on him or her as they move forward from this moment forward. What has the greatest influence on him or her? Ask yourself that question. What is determining the trajectory of your life going forward? Who you will be. What helps you, what hinders you? Who will you be going forward? Is the past a prescription for your future? And exactly what is, what is the future? It's amazing. I think this life that we're living, where individuals, Navy planes and pilots are rising up in the skies over the earth, and they're declaring that what has previously been described as unidentified flying objects, UFOs, are unidentified flying objects with intelligence. We're not alone in the universe. So says Navy pilots that are flying vehicles that are worth billions of dollars. Billions of dollars, who must think and be pretty intelligent to fly these fantastic machines. And they are there in the air and see these representations. Notice the way that they are moving, and they declare that there's intelligence. We're not alone. And so, what about life? There are so many traditions that say that this plane of living, or dimension of living that we have, is not all that there is. So when you consider life, what has control? What has the most influence? Again, a matter of self-awareness. When do you own your life? What are the determinants of what your life will be? Is it your health, mental, emotional, physical? Is it your wealth? Do the same thing. You could say mental, emotional, physical. Is it your lineage, past, present, future? What determines what your life will be? What determines your level of happiness or sadness right at this moment? This is what is being talked about when we speak of self-awareness and becoming the authentic self, becoming who you were destined to be. Conviction of the mystics and the poets and the prophets of the past is that man, or humankind, is not bound by precedent. The precedent is not a prescription for the future. The principles are. The principles are. And there are so many things that portend to the idea that your life can change in a moment just by making a determination that your life will change in a moment. And you want that determination to be informed. At least I would desire that determination for me to be informed. And so, when I look at this aspect of self-awareness, there are items that come into play. There's this aspect of that there's always this matter of upon what do you make decisions. Remember and many people may not remember, but there was this experiment that was done by this fellow named Pavlov, in which he had these animals, of course, that I think they were little rats, I believe, mice perhaps, that they used to experiment. Or maybe they were Pavlov's dogs, if I remember correctly, in which they did the experiment to determine whether or not they would respond to a bell. And it had to do with them salivating. Initially they were giving them food and the bell would sound. But then they trained them in such a way that they just simply responded to the bell, if I remember correctly. But they did that because of the aspect that they were Pavlov's dogs. The human has the ability to do something different. Based on things such as when the human gets a stimulus, he or she does not have to snap back. The human can stop. The human can think. The human can imagine. The human can think about their values, their beliefs, the principles. The human can make a decision that's different from any decision they have ever made before, he or she has ever made before. The human can do all of that in an instant. Change the trajectory of his or her life. Self-awareness. Self-awareness. No matter what the past has been, no matter what the situation is today, the human can be different. And why would you want to be different? Oh, that's a great question. You could look at the past, you could look at the present, you could look at the future. Find out where your motivation is. Why would you want to be different? There are probably as many reasons for wanting to be different. Even though in this day and time, individuals try to just advertise it as money or fun or fame or whatever it may be. People have subtle reasons for what they want in life. And it's more than just simply money and fame and ease even. It's so much more than just that. One individual may actually want what they call significance, which is vital. Individuals want what they have done in life to have value, not just for themselves, but for those individuals who may later understand or see or benefit from what they have done. They want the aspect that when someone looks at or considers or experiences what they have done, that it makes a difference in that person's life. That I was the best I could be at that moment. And that may be the inspiration another person may need in order to give him or herself the permission to be the best in their moment as well. I remember hearing that song, "Give me one moment in time when I'm more than I thought I could be." One moment in time. I believe it was Whitney Houston that sung that song. And I believe I saw that song connected with the Olympics. Immortal. Immemorial. One moment in time. When you see someone like Simone Biles, the gymnast, or you see someone like Tiger Woods come back and rise up and be the golfer that he is today after all he's been through. Or you see these young ladies playing tennis in this day and time. Federer or Nadal and all of the others that are playing tennis, or Serena Williams playing tennis. All of these people at their best. One moment in time. So you may be an inspiration. Right where you are, in your location, you decide to be the best. You could be in any kind of job, and you could just not want the limelight, but that moment comes where you decide, because you have stepped into that moment the way that you stepped into it, and you decided that you're living by principle. You became self-aware as to what is important. You decided, I'm not for sale. I can't be bought. I'm not doing it because everybody else is doing it or has done it. I decided today. And it doesn't matter what area of life it is, whether it's business, whether it's spirituality, whatever it may be. Everybody else may be doing what's not working, not best, not principled, all of that. But you decided, I'm going to be different. Not just to be different. That's not what we're talking about either. Some people just want to be different because they just want to be different. No, that's not. That may be somebody else's whole presentation. That's not my presentation. That's not what I'm talking about. This is a little bit different from that. This is self-awareness. This is about a journey to become authentic self. It's called a number of things, whether it's called the hero's journey or the heroine's journey or the to become the authentic self, or whether it's called individuation. All of these are processes that are named by other individuals. The self-actualization, self-realization, to me, they are all the same thing. They're called by different names, by different individuals, because, there are many people who have looked at it from ancient times. This is not something new. People, as long as they've been on the earth, have been growing into themselves. And so this is a process, and they've had to face various challenges all along the way. And so, as I said, the soldier had the experience that he must go through the tunnel, or he decides that in spite of his injuries, in spite of what happened in war, in spite of the losses, in spite of the PTSD or something, the loss of coherence as I call it, in spite of growing up impoverished or whatever, in spite of the situations of life, I'm going to become the very best that I could possibly be. I'm going to take the journey to become aware of what it is and who it is that I really am. I'm going to be the best that I could possibly be. If you want more, email me at info@iwillrestore.com, info@iwillrestore.com. My whys are just simply that I want to be the very best that I can be. I want to be. I've influenced a few people in life. I've seen people who came to me and said they had 6 months to live, and I'll talk about them a little later in time or at another presentation. And I seen individuals live as a result of prayer and knowing that they had life within them additional time, sometimes for decades longer. So I've seen this. I've experienced this. I've seen individuals blessed with plenty. So blessings to you. Know your why. Decide who you are and take the journey. God bless you.